If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We have new stories every day. I was really proud of my daughter as I watched her round second base. The outfielder made an error, throwing the ball back into the field. Brooke didn't even slow down, watching the left fielder's throw. I held my breath as Brooke barely managed to intercept the relay to third base. I told her a lot not to make the first or last out of the inning at third base. The fans on our side of the field let out. There was a collective sigh as the bottom of the ninth inning of the district championship game approached. After 9 innings, the game ended in a tie, and now in the second overtime, Brooke had hit a triple. I've been a baseball fan my entire life, but I've never been as excited or as nervous as I was in that moment. My daughter seemed determined to win the game, even if she had to do it all by herself. The next batter struck out on 3 pitches, and now we had 1 out and a runner on third. The next batter hit the ball to third base. The third baseman was on form. She watched Brooke return to the bag, then threw the ball to first base. Brooke sprinted home. I was so caught up in the moment I couldn't make a sound. A lump the size of an apple formed in my throat. Everything felt like it was happening in slow motion. The first baseman caught the ball and threw it to the catcher. Brooke slid towards the back of the plate just as the catcher reached out to tag her. It was so close. Time stood still as everyone waited for the umpire's decision. After what seemed like an eternity, he signaled. His arms were out and down, palms flat on the ground. There was an uproar, and tears streamed down my cheeks. I watched as Brooke's teammates embraced her in a group hug. I felt sorry for the other team because they'd put in an incredible effort, but only one team can come out on top. That's part of the game. I was sitting in the car when Brooke walked across the parking lot. She was laughing and joking with her teammates. Is there ever a more beautiful, smart, or athletic girl in the world? I was overflowing with love for this young beauty. "Hey, Dad," Brooke greeted as she slid into the passenger seat. "So, how did you like the game? Don't start with the whole, don't make the first out at third." "Dad," Brooke replied, "there are some fundamental truths in baseball that prove themselves over and over again. That's one of them," I replied. "I didn't make it up, but it's a fact. We really needed to win that inning, or we'd be in trouble. I think we should ice your arm tonight, Brooke. I didn't know your arm was hurting. Did you tell your coach?" I asked because I wanted to know if I should tell him. "No, Dad. It would have put her in a tough spot. She would have had to pull me, and she didn't really have anyone else to put in. Nancy has a sprained ankle, and Stephanie is out with the flu now. Next week, we're heading to the States." Brooke smiled. "That's definitely better than ending the season right." I marveled at the child sitting next to me, the one I used to. I've done everything from changing nappies to teaching her to ride a bike. I even showed her how to throw, catch, and hit. She's now the reason her school won the district championships and is heading to the States. I gave myself some credit for her many successes in both academics and sports. "Where are we going, Dad? You missed the turn for the 6th highway." "Dad, you love steak and potatoes. I'm ordering lobster." Brooke said, "I could offer you a frosty mug of MGD to wash down your steak." She laughed and said, "I never thought about that, but now that you suggested it, I just might." Brooke said, "You're a genius. I know we've spent our whole lives recycling beer cans, and I'd be an idiot not to know what you like." "You're not that original," Brooke teased when we entered the restaurant and saw there was already a 10. There was a short wait for a table, and I was given a pager that lights up and vibrates when it's my turn. I sat on a bench while Brooke went to the ladies' room. She returned about 5 minutes later, and I didn't pay much attention at first. However, I noticed a few minutes later that I could see tears streaming down Brooke's cheeks. "Brooke, what's wrong? Is your arm hurting? What's going on, sweetheart?" I asked. "You know, your mom couldn't come to my game because she had to go to Philadelphia for work." "That's it, Brooke. You know your mom has a high." I suggested that she ask for a job at the insurance company, as she has to travel a lot. She really wanted to come to your game, but her schedule didn't allow it. I told her not to be upset about it, as I'm sure she'll make it to the States eventually. I don't care if she ever comes to one of my games, she can go straight to hell. She'd never spoken badly about her mother, nor had she ever used such vulgar language, although she had occasionally heard it from me. Her emotional outburst was a complete shock to me. "Oh, Dad, you're as blind as I am. Mum didn't go to Philadelphia. She's inside with some sleazy jerk, holding hands and laughing with him. Or she doesn't care." I was taken aback by Brooke's outburst. It was as if she'd just told me my wife had signed a contract with the Yankees, or that she was involved with another man. My head started to spin. Brooke wrapped her arms around me and began to sob. I felt tears rolling down my own cheeks. How could one of the best days of our lives turn so it quickly turned into a nightmare? I pulled away from Brooke just long enough to return the pager to the hostess. Then I hugged her and led her back to the car. I helped her into the passenger seat and then climbed into the driver's seat. I didn't start the car because I could barely see. We sat there together in the parking lot for another few minutes. After about 10 minutes, the nausea, shame, and horror gradually subsided, and I was able to wipe my eyes and regain my focus. "Brooke, are you sure it was your mother?" I asked quietly. "It's entirely possible you made a mistake. We might be getting upset over nothing. It could have been someone who just looked like Natalie." "Seriously, Dad, what?" "I don't know. What my own mother looks like, there must be thousands of purple Lexus SUVs with plates that say hat like that one over there, right?" Brooke said sarcastically. I looked in the direction she pointed and saw Natalie's car, a few rows ahead of where we were sitting. There was no mistaking it. "I'm sorry, Brooke. I guess I was just trying to deny it." I apologized, saying that it was obvious that it was her mother in the hotel. She'd lied to both of us and was cheating on me. We needed to accept this and decide what to do next. Then my phone rang. I knew who it was even before I looked at the screen. It was Natalie. I didn't want her to realize that. Brooke and I knew where she was and what she was doing. At least not before I'd had a chance to decide on my next steps. "Hello, Natalie," I answered as calmly as I could. "Hi, honey," Natalie exclaimed. "How did the game go? I'm dying to know who won." "We won it, and next week we're heading to the state." "Brooke played well," I replied, downplaying her performance. "Her performance was excellent. I want to congratulate her and tell her how proud I am. I wish I could have been there." Natalie said she was with some of her teammates at the moment. "Natalie, I'll pass along the message. Are you in Philadelphia? I'm driving down Broad Street as we speak." Natalie laughed. "The traffic is pretty bad at the moment. I thought I'd give you a quick call to see how everything went. Be careful in that new car, by the way. I think you're in your Lexus, right?" I asked Tim about it. "I love this car. It's so safe and much less of a gas guzzler than your Ford. I've got to go, Tim. I'm almost at the hotel. Love you, and I'll call you again tomorrow." She promised she'd hang up the phone, and she looked at Brooke, who seemed like she was about to break down again. Then she snorted and smiled at me. "Screw her, right, Dad?" Brooke asked rhetorically. "We'll be just fine without her. Maybe even better." "We will, as long as you stop using bad language, young lady. Things may have turned to crap, but that's no reason to act like you're from, I raised you better than that." I scolded, "Sorry, I was just so angry, and it felt like only curse words could fit the situation." Brooke explained, "I feel better now, but I'm worried about you, Dad." At first, all I could think about was how little my game meant to her. She'd rather sneak off and sleep with some guy than watch me play. I didn't even think about how awful you must feel. Well, yeah, it hurts. I admit that I don't know what to do next. It's such a shock. I can't even think straight. Dad, I thought you'd kick her out so fast it would make her head spin. She has absolutely no respect for either of us, even without the guy. Lying alone would be enough to divorce her, don't you think? Brooke asked. It seems like it would be, but over the years I've learned it's better to think things through rather than act impulsively. I can always file for divorce, I just need to be sure it's the right course of action. I replied, Dad, do you have a spare key to Mom's car? If so, could you give it to me, please? You do. Could you give it to me, please? I do, Brooke. But why do you need it? I asked. I think it would be the final proof. If the key fob works on that car over there, we'll know for sure that Mom didn't stop at some hotel in Philadelphia, Brooke reasoned. I handed Brooke the key, and she quickly jogged over to the car as I approached. I pressed the button on the fob, and I saw the headlights blink. I was surprised. Brooke got inside and started Natalie's car. She waved at me as she drove past. I quickly started my own car and turned around to follow her. I didn't have to follow her far. She drove a block, pulled into a parking lot, went all the way to the back corner and jumped out. She went to the back corner and got out. She pressed the button to lock Natalie's car and then climbed back into mine. This is just a small taste of what Mom's life is going to be like. Brooke laughed. Imagine when she can't find her car. She won't be able to report it stolen in Philadelphia. If she reports it stolen, the story will fall apart under police questioning. She'll have to explain why the car is here when she said she drove it to Philadelphia. Lies make everything more complicated. I didn't know whether to be proud of Brooke or to schedule her an appointment with a psychiatrist. I've never had such a great idea. But the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. Let Natalie find out firsthand how lies can come back to bite you. We stopped at a fast food place a few miles down the road and had some fries and a burger. Then we headed home. Brooke started asking some thought. How long do you think your mom has been sneaking around behind your back? Dad, do you think she's done it many times? Why do you think she's doing it? Is she some kind of sex maniac or something? How has your personal relationship with her been, Brooke? I've been thinking about it lately. She's been really kind to me in the bedroom. I honestly can't complain about that. As for how long and how often, I have no idea. I never thought she was particularly promiscuous. I admitted that obviously I had no clue that anything was wrong. I bet she started when she began. I think women sometimes have sex with their partners to make themselves feel better. How long ago did she start? Brooke asked. I'm not sure, but it was probably around Christmas. I thought everything was going well for the last 5 months. Natalie has been more than usual, but she always seemed eager to make up for it. I said, you should go see a doctor for a checkup. You don't know who that guy has been with, do you? Dad, everyone he slept with could say you've slept with too in terms of diseases. Brooke warned you should also get protection if you plan to keep sleeping with Mom. If you plan to keep sleeping with your mom, you should get protection. It would be a clear sign that I suspect something if you don't. Your mom isn't stupid, even though she's acting like it. I've lost all desire to have sex with her. I'll go for a checkup and just find ways to avoid her until I figure out what to do next. Just make sure you take care of yourself, Dad. I'm going to rely on you more than ever when you decide to divorce her. I'm going to live with you, that's for sure, Brooke stated. I appreciate your confidence, Brooke, but I'm not so sure it'll end in divorce. Surely there's a chance that Natalie and I could work things out? Dad, you're always so gentle and kind to Mom and me, but I know what you're thinking and feeling. You'll never be able to accept that Mom is lying to you, even if you could get over the sex. She's PED, and it's just a matter of when you accept that fact. Brooke predicted this. I wondered how many in my position probably have a smart daughter with whom they can discuss everything. Brooke kept me from falling apart. She made me look at the situation logically, rather than emotionally. She only had my best interests in mind, and no hidden agenda. Could there be a better confidant for anyone? The next day, I made an appointment with the doctor after work. I stopped by the school to pick up Brooke after her practice. I arrived a little early and watched the girls practice. Other parents were constantly praising Brooke's performance. I felt pretty good about that, but lousy about my marriage. Natalie showed up around 7. I tried to greet her the same way as usual, but I felt a bit weak, to be honest. I wondered if Natalie would notice. I didn't have to worry, though. She said, I missed you so much, Tim. Natalie said, I'll show you just how much later. I wanted to ask if she still had the spare key to my car. I said, Of course. Here it is in my pocket. She replied, In your pocket? I said, Yeah, here it is. I went inside and pulled out her spare key. Did you lose yours? Otherwise I wouldn't have made it home. Natalie answered a bit too quickly. I just thought I should have a spare in case I lose mine. All right, I agreed and handed her the key. She must have found her car, but now that she knew how it had been moved, she would be more careful. As if on cue, Brooke walked into the room and said, Hi, Mom, how's Philly? Did you have a good time? She asked. I wasn't expecting to have a good time, Brooke replied. Those meetings are long and exhausting, Natalie said. No, they're not, Natalie insisted. It's not really fun, is it, Mom? It's pretty long and exhausting, but you keep working. Why is that? Dad makes good money, and you're smart. You could find something that gives you more free time to spend with us. I actually love my job most of the time. Plus, I won't always be traveling this much. I think things will calm down by the end of the year, and I'll have more time to spend with you both. You'll see, Natalie replied, carrying her small suitcase into the bedroom and closing the door. Brooke gestured for me to follow her into the kitchen. Did you hear that Dad's lover is moving out by the end of the year? Which means you can have Mom back. How's that for a deal? There's a chance of STDs for another 6 months or so, and then it'll all be over unless she finds a new partner. Can you live with that? With that, Brooke asked, Are you reading too much into one sentence? I pointed out that it might not be what she meant, and that it's probably not like that at all. Remember, I grew up around both of you, and I know how you both think. Mom believes she can have this affair and then return to a normal life next year without anyone getting hurt. Brooke insisted, Well, that's debatable. Dad, these things don't just go away on their own. I told Natalie that my back and head were hurting that evening, but she still suggested I just lie down, and she would do all the work. I had to convince my wife not to have sex with me. It made me really angry. The next evening, as I watched Brooke's team finish practice, it seemed like some of the other girls were friendlier than usual. I saw it too. She mentioned it on the way home. "Dad, I saw Emily's mom holding your hand while she was talking to you. It looked like she was pressing her chest against your arm. That's not accidental when a woman does that." Brooke then told me that Mrs. Thomas had offered you her soda. "It seems like you've suddenly become the stud among the baseball parents." I thought it was strange too. I admitted that I had a clear sense that these women were being unusually friendly for some reason. Could it be that since you'll soon be a free man, they're lining up to sign? Brooke asked what exactly I meant. I said, "Well, I might become free, and besides, my market value isn't that high." She said, "You might have mentioned in the locker room last night that your mum is cheating on you." I said, "My daughter and her teammates found that particularly interesting. They thought you'd make a decent stepdad, and it seems their mothers agree." I was stunned by what my daughter had said. She told her teammates that Natalie was cheating on. "I don't think it's a good idea to just write it in the newspaper and post it online. What were you thinking?" "This isn't something everyone needs to know, Brooke. It's so embarrassing for me. Have you thought that maybe other people already know?" "Dad, it's even more awkward to be ignorant in a situation where everyone else is aware. The girls already know about it. Trudy's mum saw your wife and a man enter a room at that hotel a few weeks ago when she was there for a conference. The only difference now is that the other mums know you're aware of your wife's affair. It won't seem like they're the ones breaking up the family. Let's face it, our family is pretty much already broken." Brooke summed up, "How many times can a person be shocked before it becomes normal and stops being shocking? Other people knew I was being cheated on somehow, which made everything feel even worse. The last shred of my pride had been ripped away after this week. Nothing could surprise me anymore. That's not all, Dad." Brooke added that Sarah has been complaining since last winter that her dad is often not home. Last week, she told us they're moving after Thanksgiving because her dad's insurance company is transferring him. Last night, Sarah's mom saw Sarah's dad picking her up after practice. She recognized him as the same guy who's been sleeping with her tonight. I went to the car with Sarah and confirmed it. He's the same guy who was with her that night when I saw them. All this information made my head spin. How did the kids manage to figure out so much? Could this all be a coincidence? Is there even such a thing as coincidence? Can our children really know us that well? Why was I needed to ask Brooke, "What do I do now?" "I can't think clearly anymore," I groaned. "Well, I'm glad you asked. I knew that for most of the soccer or baseball moms you'd seem like a good catch. Those ladies confirmed it today. You don't have to put up with a woman who lies and cheats. You deserve better, and I'll help you get it. But first, you need to get rid of the dead weight." It was the night before Brooke's first game in the state playoffs, and Natalie had to leave on yet another business trip. She promised Brooke she would drive all day if necessary to make it back in time for the game. That last lie somehow helped ease our conscience. There was a knock on the hotel room door. Room service had arrived with a bottle of champagne. I had convinced the management that the couple in room 402 we wanted to surprise them, as they were very close to us. When the door opened, I put a 20 in the guy delivering the champagne's shirt pocket. I took the bottle and pushed my way inside. Behind me were Brooke, Sarah, and Sarah's mum. Natalie was lying in bed, clutching the sheet to her chest. The stallion was in a bathrobe, looking bewildered. "We really didn't want to disturb you at work," I began, but Sarah and Brooke wanted to celebrate their district win with all their parents. The fact that Sarah hit a 2-run scored in the bottom of the 7th to tie the game, and then made the game-saving throw in the top of the 8th, while Brooke pitched a one-hitter and hit a triple in the 9th to score the winning run. I'm sure you've heard the news. Susan and I are very proud of the girls. We toasted to their success with 4 glasses of champagne. I'd already opened the bottle before room service knocked. I handed a glass to Natalie and the man in the bath row, to the truth and to our daughter's achievements. I made a toast to a new direction in our lives, and to Sarah and her mum not having to move this autumn. Most importantly, I toasted to smart kids and good lawyers. Susan and I sipped the bubbly while the girls I drank soda. "There's no need for you to come home, Steve," Susan said firmly. "Sarah and I will be just fine without you. My lawyer assures me that the settlement will allow me to keep the house and live comfortably. Sarah won't have to change schools again. You'll keep this mistress of yours, so I think that's pretty fair." Susan smirked, though without any real humor. "Tim Brooke," Natalie shouted. "I love you both, and I don't think you should do anything rash. I'm glad to hear that, Natalie. I'm also relieved because it looks like you're lying naked in bed with that lover. What part am I seeing wrong? On the bright side, Mom Brooke added, you won't have to lie to avoid attending my events. You can sleep with whoever you want, anytime you want, without feeling guilty. You won't have to worry about giving your dad AIDS or any other STDs. You'll never have to see how hurt he was when he found out he was being cheated on. I know you want the same thing for your dad as I do, for him to be happy. For some reason, I think you will be now. Thanks for everything, Mom. Just don't put me in an awkward position by showing up at any event I'm part of. We left the house in silence. Natalie was sobbing quietly in the back seat. I drove us home in silence. I kept thinking about everything that had happened over the past few days. I never imagined I would confront my wife this way, but I felt strangely relieved. Brooke had been right all along. We needed to deal with it head-on that night. Brooke came into my room before going to bed. To bed, Dad. Are you okay? Yes, Brooke. I think I will be. It's hard, but I know we're better off now. I assured her I was sorry she had to find out this way, but I was proud of how she handled it. Thank you, Brooke. I couldn't have done this without you. As Brooke left the room, I finally felt a sense of closure. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was what I needed. It was the ending I wanted, but it was also the start of something new. I knew it would be a tough road ahead, but with Brooke by my side, I was ready for it. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing. If you haven't already, feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.